Holy crap, can you believe it? I'm actually getting a review out early for a change. Hell hasn't frozen over. Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough. Halo Single Player Version 3, the final edition. I am so excited for this. I've been waiting over a year for this release. Last year, the CMT community released part 1 of their SPV3. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's essentially a mod for Halo PC's extension Halo Custom Edition. It's been in the works for over 10 years. Check out my original review that I have right there that I did just a couple of months ago, and it gives you a little bit of a backstory about the mod itself, as well as how it came to be. So last year, the CMT community and Masters Elite released the first half of this, which is essentially the first half of the Combat Evolved campaign, as well as a new mission called Silent Cartographer Evolved. Essentially what they did with that one is they took the mission, the Silent Cartographer, and redid the entire thing from the ground up, and it's so cool. It takes you different places and even a new way to get the Cartographer itself. I say most of this in my original review, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes here. In this mod, they add all new weapons, not just from the other Halo campaigns, but even originals. They add new vehicles and, get this, new enemies from all the other games. We're talking brutes, skirmishers, and even different flavors of hunters, of which they're weapons you can actually wield. But for me, the cream of the crop, the thing that really stood out the most is that they actually added brand new sections to almost all of the missions and even gave you new objectives. None of this felt shoehorned in there, with the exception of one, which I'll get to later, but it all felt organic to the game itself, like it was a director's cut of the original Halo. A couple of weeks ago, I did a comparison video on Halo Anniversary and Halo SPV3, and they're both excellent games, and you should play them both, and they do both set out to do different things. Anniversary is obviously meant to be a remaster, whereas SPV3 is a reimagining. Like I said, both are excellent games, but I did have a lot more fun with SPV3 just because there's so much more stuff you can do with it. But as I said before, both are great games that set out to do different things, but SPV just really does stand out. And quite simply put, if you're a big fan of the original Halo Combat Evolved, this is something you need to play. This is something you need to feel and experience for yourself. In fact, we need to take a second right now and just check out some footage from this awesome new campaign. As you can see from that, they haven't just added all that other stuff. They even give it a good buff and shine with just all new graphics, and it looks beautiful. It looks updated, and it's something that just feels like it should have always been there. So how does this version differ from the other ones? Well, first of all, it actually gives you the rest of the campaign. And of course, we all know that in the second half of Combat Evolved, we got introduced to two new factions of enemies, the Flood and the Sentinels. Both of these have seen a massive increase in their ranks at SPV3. And from the Flood, we see a lot more too. You see Flood biomass that actually explode into infection forms. You see what looks like pure carrier forms going around. That's pretty awesome. And you see new combat forms too, like the shielded elite form and the brute form. And yes, even more weapons have been added this time around than from the original release of SPV3. There is a lot to have fun with, but I will say this. In the last video, I mentioned that I had a couple of very minor gripes with the game. The first was the fact that they introduced the hunters in the first mission rather than the third where they felt organic, but I'll have more on that later. The second is that there was an extended part in the Assault of the Control Room that, unlike the others, didn't really feel organic to it. It felt a little shoehorned in there with light bridges being copied and pasted, and you had this long hallway with really nothing happening trying to go back up to the surface. It felt weird. Are both those things still in there? Yes. I will say that on the reverse part of Two Betrayals, though, when you're going back to that area, they did make it a lot better. So good job, CNT community. You listened to the Tyrants. But while we're on the subject, that wasn't really the only minor gripe that I had. I think CMT must really hate the concept of the energy sword because you can't wield that at all, and it doesn't have that bright glow that the original one had from Combat Evolved either, which is my favorite version of the sword. The original looked like an energy extension of the Elite's hand rather than look like a forked fucked up prop from Spencer's. That's right, Hot Topic Cookware, you heard it here first. And so I did find that disappointing. I can see why there's no need for the sword in this game, but it still could be relevant. I've had several times where I've had enemies rush up to me and I was like, man, I could use a one-hit kill melee weapon right about now. I'm not saying give it a lunge like the energy sword in other games, just make it a one-hit kill weapon. That's it. Or at least two-hit kills, with the first one dealing with shields and the second one with the actual body itself. And there were times in the campaign where I felt like the odds were really tilted against the player. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Tyrant, you're the mythic difficulty guy. Are you actually complaining about the fact that a game's too hard? I didn't say I couldn't beat it. I just said the challenge is real. The learning curve is steep on SPV3 compared to Combat Evolved. I even had this one instance where I was going up against like 12 Banshees at once. Holy shit! I think the most number of Banshees you go up against at one time in Halo Combat Evolved was 2, so yeah, that's 6 times more. That's a lot, I'm just saying. I've had issues with checkpoints before, like I would get stuck by a grenade right before a checkpoint would hit, and then just boom, over and over again, and I couldn't get past that part. Or I've had other parts where I've gone through extreme stretches of the mission and be like 15-20 minutes, and I still wouldn't get a checkpoint. So that's something I hope gets improved upon before the final release, because keep in mind, I just played the beta version. And I want to circle back to the Hunter thing for a moment. I talked about it a little bit in my last video, but this seems to be a part of a bigger issue. The scaling in SPV3 definitely seems a lot steeper than in Combat Evolved itself. In Halo Combat Evolved, you got gradually introduced to new enemies and new concepts as the missions went on, but in SPV3, it throws a lot of it at you at once. In the first mission alone, you're introduced to grunts, elites, camo elites, brutes, and hunters. In the second mission, you're introduced to wraiths, ghosts, and even an anti-air wraith. So by the time you get to Assault on the Control Room, you've pretty much seen everything the Covenant can throw at you. Whereas in the original game, where you got introduced to vehicular combat for the first time in Assault on the Control Room, which made it unique and something that people really enjoyed. All in all, these are very minor nitpicks. If you're a Halo fan, if you've been sticking with the series since day one, or at least the first game, this is something you need to play. This is a new experience for you. It's something you need to play and feel for yourself. And if you're like me and you've played Halo Combat Evolved 1,000 times before, this will still be a brand new experience for you. A lot of love and hard work went into this project, and I want to take a moment to thank every single member of the CMT community, especially Masters Lead, for taking the last 10 years to make this mod free for us to enjoy for years to come. 343, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you seriously need to consider hiring these people. The SPV3 mod is 100% free, including Halo Custom Edition. I'll put a link in the description for those below, but if I had to put a price on this, I would absolutely 100% say that Halo Single Player version 3 is worth buying at full price. So now that I've given you a sneak peek, what do you think so far of the mod? What's your favorite thing? What are you looking forward to the most? And if you're watching this after release of the game, what is your absolute favorite thing about the mod? You can let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, click that subscribe button for more great content every single day right here on MythicTyrant.com, and a chance to keep up with all your Halo news. Thanks so much for watching, guys and gals. I'll catch you right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.